The Oregon Ducks very well may run the Cowboys off the field, but there are a lot of keys in the matchups that do give the Cowboys an opportunity. So let's break some of those down today.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome into this Locked On Oklahoma State show. I am here to bring you the top stop for Oklahoma State Cowboy and Cowgirl coverage. Today, we get to jump right into this conversation. Before we do that, I have to remind all the fun folks out here that I can't speak English, and we're also sponsored partially by FanDuel Today. Get in on the action. Football season is around the corner. Visit FanDuel App today and start planning your future bets now. Get with the best in the biz, FanDuel. So we're going to keep this train rolling and talk about the Cowboys. Naturally, there's going to be some key elements to give this game the possibility of the Cowboys hanging tough. So we're going to break some of those down. And as always, whenever we're building the hype train, or as this week, the Zane train, leading up to the game, bringing on some former Cowboy alums that used to be one of the biggest deals in Colvin, old school history. Very, very comparable name to a legendary Cowboy and the alum himself and a friend of mine, Mark Price. How are we feeling in general? Because we're undefeated going into week 2 of the season.
Well, we feel all right. Probably a little nervous. There's a lot of uncertainties, like what are we really? What do we really have? And I think we'll find that out a little bit more this week. And, I just don't feel like Oklahoma State's going to get blown out in Oregon. It's a possibility, but I think that we'll find out real soon, like if we really brought in these Southeast Conference type of defenders, and we brought in a ton of them, we'll find out, do we bring in enough guys that can really play and help us compete at this level, at the high level of college football? We'll find that out.
Well, one of the biggest things that I wanted to start off with, and we'll bounce back and forth, and then you'll add some more context and clarity here towards the end, but I don't want to run by some of the things that I think that are imperative for the Cowboys to have success in this ball game. And I think one of the biggest ones, and Clint Shelf mentioned it earlier on a podcast that was absolutely phenomenal, is the scripting in this ball game. I think anybody could see that over the last few seasons, Casey Dunn's inability at times to put a solid script together is what put us moving backwards. I don't think the Cowboys are going to be in a response territory if we get down 17-0, 21-3 style of range. That would be very problematic in my opinion. So those first, 15-ish plays are very important for the Cowboys to have the ability to hang in this daggone thing, because if it gets out of hand and the scripting doesn't go well and the chess match between Doug Meacham and the Duck defense, it could become slightly problematic. But again, it'll also be a big moment for Doug Meacham to see, has he matured in his coaching ages, and does he understand how to play that chess game? Well, what do you think about that first scripting breakdown, Brother Man?
Well, I think it is important. I think, we've had several offensive coordinators over the years, and the really good ones have been able to kind of stay a play ahead of the defense. I think Meacham can do some of these things. I think even last year there were times where, we ran Rangel a little bit. He ended up getting hurt. But, when we started making the defense account for that quarterback run game, I think it's going to be big. It's going to be huge. Hopefully we can get Fields back. Hopefully we can see Sessi, make some plays. Hopefully the offensive line kind of, had some meetings, got some things together, got some things worked out. They didn't look good last week, but I think, the play calling was decent last week. And I think that we can, if we kind of just be creative, not get into a lull where we just start trying to be vanilla, but try to have a plan. I think the script is very important, that we have a good script going into the game for sure.
You mentioned Todd Grantham bringing in a bunch of dudes, not only on the coaching staff, but obviously in the athletic acquisition department as well. And I don't know, I think in the broad scheme of things, there's an opportunity here, primarily for the tight ends and the defensive line. Josh Ford has to be that dude. All of the talk in the spring and the fall is Josh Ford is not only bigger, but he's more composed. He's more mature. He's gotten better in the blocking department. We did get to see that on display against UT Martin, but we need to see the utilization of the hands. If we have, 6, 7, 8 tight ends on the roster and a decent amount of them are capable, we got to see it in this ball game, in my particular opinion. And then on the other side, the defensive line did create a lot of havoc against UT Martin. They lived in the backfield. They did miss out on some opportunities for, a few more TFLs, a few more sacks, etc. They need to rise to the occasion here. They need to put something on display for the national fan base to see, and the Big 12, as we'll talk about a little bit later in segment 3, that no matter what happens throughout the course of the season, if there's offensive inefficiencies at times or maybe there's back-end issues, they need to show that the front seven of Oklahoma State is something that will keep us in ball games for the entirety of the season. Wendell Gregory have a big game. And you know what? Even when I went and looked back, Chandavian Bradley didn't pop up on the stat sheet a crap ton, but he caused enough instability with the tackles, getting them really out wide and opening lane for some of the other dudes and opening, other opportunities up for the other defensive linemen and linebackers. So I got to give a shout out to Chandavian here, the former 5-star Tennessee Bad Mama Jamma. This is his time to shine as well. If he wants to make a mark on what his Cowboy career could potentially be, even though he's loaded down with guys in front of him like Malik Charles and Wendell Gregory, he still has a massive amount of opportunities. And I would suspect that with Deshaun Brown potentially obviously been out for a little bit of time, we're going to be able to see some of these D linemen make a case for why they're worth every dollar amount plus some, and maybe need more. What say you in regards to those two spots, brother?
Well, the one thing that we didn't see in week 1 with the tight ends is we didn't bring those guys in motion. I don't know if we were trying to set up Oregon for, hey, maybe Meacham is not wanting to bring these guys in motion. But I think we will see our tight ends come in motion and bring those kind of crack blocks, nice. Push out the guy on the end and really use that to our advantage. We really, in game 1, we blocked those guys straight up, and we didn't use a lot of different help. We didn't, I thought maybe, moving forward, we would bring in maybe a fullback or some tight ends and really try to help create the edge and create those gaps for the running lane. So I definitely see our tight ends, maybe some double tights. I know last year at different times, that's the thing. I was there when Les Miles came, and we used double tights. We used jumbo packages. And it seemed like last year we were just unwilling to go in there and really just say, you know what, we're going to put some big boys on the line with us, and we're going to try to move guys. We saw that our line wasn't good last year, but at the same time, we had some guys that got picked up on some practice squads, some guys that made some that got pretty deep in towards the 53-man roster. So we had some guys that were okay and good enough to kind of try to crack an NFL roster. So I definitely think we'll see the tight ends moving, the tight ends helping block, the tight ends helping create gaps. We did, and you and I talked about on the defensive line, we brought in some guys. We brought in a bunch of guys. And I think you and I both were thinking, well, how are we going to play all these guys? And we brought in some talent. I think the one thing that helped us with Meacham, or not Meacham, but Grantham again, is these are guys that he recruited that maybe didn't end up with a Florida offer, but they were guys that they saw some talent in them, and maybe they ended up at a smaller school, but they had enough talent that they thought, hey, we can bring him into Stillwater, and we can really be competitive and really change the line of scrimmage on the defensive side. So that's what I hope to see this week in Oregon with our tight ends and our defensive linemen.
Well, and we're going to expound upon that in segment 2, but real quick before we do that, the last, I think, biggest key for me is Zane Florez walking into Eugene, Oregon. That's not easy for anybody, even if you're a veteran QB, right? So I think one of the things that we need to do is add some creativity to the quarterback position, whether that be an ace formation, 12 personnel, 22 personnel, get a couple different people back there. Even if it's Sam Jackson in some wild card situations with some potential options to pass as well. Get G Freaky, Gavin Freeman back there to cause a little bit of havoc and just to create a little extra eye candy for this Oregon defense that at times is probably prepared to pin their ears back and make life a living catastrophe to some degree on Zane Florez. Do you think that there's a potential that we do see some complexity added to this quarterback thing? Or do you see this Zane train being the only thing riding through Eugene the entire time?
Well, I definitely liked what we saw out of Freeman last week. That kid made some really nice quick twitch moves around the line of scrimmage to kind of navigate through traffic. We're going to pull out all the stops. When we've struggled to have an offensive line to really get pushed, to really accomplish a goal at the line of scrimmage in the past, and I think we'll see it this week, we're going to get the ball out of our hands quickly. And so we're going to get it out into the flat. We're going to get it out to – we're going to move the wide receivers around. We're going to move our running backs around. I think we'll see us get the ball out of our hands quickly, really try to protect and take some deep shots against the Oregon Ducks. And we'll see how that goes. But I think, we're going to have to decide, let's go all in, all out, and let's see what we can do. And let's not embarrass ourselves, but let's leave it all out there this week.
Fist fight in a phone booth and just let it fly. All right, so we're going to expound a little bit more upon some of the dominating factors that very well could put Oklahoma State in position to get this W, pull off the miracle, shock the world, call it what you want. But obviously, before we do that, we got to talk about some other people to get squared away with. With game day coming up, make sure that you have DoorDash coming to you. It's almost that time, that weekend, where we're going to look back and crown this week's MVP. Obviously, we've been rocking and rolling this week with Wendell Gregory. And just like him, you can win every Saturday with the DoorDash Streaks, saving more money every time you order. These players delivered when it matters, so let's break it down. Wendell is the dude for the Cowboys that showed up massively. He needs to do it again this week. Wendell Gregory's 3 sacks to tie a Big 12 freshman record in their entry game, the goal line capabilities that he has, the ability to get in the backfield and create a lot of havoc. That hesitation that some new guys have, he clearly didn't have it, just like your abilities with DoorDash. So you're going to have the Wendell Gregory winning capabilities here today when DoorDash delivers to your home this Saturday with DoorDash Streaks. Every Saturday with your order, you can stack it up all season. You can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo code is available through the 18th. Whenever you are thinking about getting more than DoorDash, there's also the ability to drive and get stuff done as well. Mazda's going to help you make some moves, and that's who you need to choose to move with. They craft cars for those who choose to be more than just simple movers. They follow the moves every single time they drive, and that's what makes Mazda stand out above the rest. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every single detail. Mazda offers more than just safety. It's won more 2025 IIHS Top Safety Pick Awards than anyone else as of August 2025. As an athlete-focused show, they have to focus on every detail. So does Mazda. From metallic accents to hand-stitched Napa leather, you can feel in the moment and get behind the wheel. The smooth handling, intuitive controls, and standard all-wheel drive in almost every cross-wheel SUV is the winner for you. It's the small details that make the biggest plays, and just like Mazda, there's more to every play. Get with a Mazda vehicle today, because with Mazda, you can move and be moved in a new Mazda. All right, buddy, now we get to slide back into this conversation. So we did hit a little bit on the D-line tight ends there and why they're important. But even more so, and I think we could even include running backs into this equation. Whether they have a phenomenal performance statistically or not, I think we just need to lay the hammer down and try to send a little bit of a message, right? The Big Ten is heralded at times for a physical, mean, rushing style of conference, right? The Big 12, typically not so much, even though things have changed in the last few years to more of a running style, right? The Ollie Gordons, the Taj Brooks, DJ Giddens of the world prove that. This is likely to be a little bit of a different Oklahoma State Cowboy attack, maybe more reminiscent of the last time that Doug Meacham was here, roaming the sidelines, maybe not as a coordinator, but nonetheless, the D-line above all else just needs to be physical. They need to bring the pain. We need to be kind of creative. We need to send blitzes. We need to get aggressive. We need to prove that what we've heard in fall camp is applicable on the football field instantaneously. Offensive line, of course, you can expound upon that a little bit more. And then the running game. Caleb Hicks showed a lot of promise, a lot of, that extra stuff that is really, really hard to teach. But he also seemed to not want to slam the gas pedal straight ahead and hit the inside holes quite as much as bouncing it outside. This should be a big moment for a Trent Howland if he's able to get out there and make his presence known. Sessi, I thought, looked really good in doing just that, finding the hole, putting his head down, and going to work and going to war. This running back room needs to do something. The D-line has to make a statement alongside the linebackers, and it goes beyond just the statistics. They need to show that they're willing to get in a fist fight. Would you agree with those sentiments? And is there anything else that you would like to add to that little awesome sauce flavor there?
Well, Sessi looked like our best running back in week
the most
one.
Complete, at least.
Yeah, and so I've heard you and others say that maybe our offensive line was playing a little bit better when he was in there. I would really love to see Fields come back. I actually didn't tell you this, but I helped coach at Southeast High School where Fields was at, but that was way before him. I was there when Gerald McCoy was there and some of those kind of guys in Oklahoma City. Okay. But and so I saw some things last year out of Fields that, man, I'm ready to see him on the field. Oklahoma State over the last several years have really been able to rush the football with some of these quick twitch running backs. These smaller guys that are real quick and that can hit the hole, can kind of run, little juke, little sideways stuff. And so I'd like to see Fields. I'd like to see Sessi. And I'd also like to see the transfer from OU. I'd like to see him get some more opportunities where the offensive line is maybe gelling a little bit. But we've got to be willing to bring the fight to them on offense and defense. And so you mentioned our defensive line again. I really would like to see some of these things that Grantham has used while he was at Florida. We had some nice blitzes last week. Hopefully he can come up with some good blitz packages and good pressure packages and not say, hey, we're just going to let you dink and dunk us and we're going to just play prevent and let you go down the field and score. I hope we can bring a lot of physicalness to the line of scrimmage on the defensive line as well.
And it's going to take, I covered this yesterday, big-time players make big-time plays in big-time games. It's going to take a few Herculean efforts. It just is. And again, I hope that starts with just letting the hammer down, right? You mentioned earlier. Yeah. Let it fly. Let it all hang out. See if you can make some crazy stuff happen, because this is not a game to be ultra conservative, and I don't necessarily think that Gundy will. I think he understands that there's a lot of chips on the table, and he has to have a fairly productive year. Whenever you go out and you make these drastic level of changes and you do spend a significant amount of money more than you have previously, not only in the NIL, but also, staff, recruiting, the whole 9 yards. Whenever you do all that, you have to have some results, because that's your sales pitch to do more. He mentioned the money thing. Dan Lanning had something to say about it. Oregon fans have made it go kind of crazy. I've said my piece and kind of throw some shade that away. But bringing it back to just the reality of Oregon is a phenomenal football team. We're very well aware that they're loaded with NFL dudes. I mean, there's a good portion of that roster that's going to end up in the NFL, not just a handful, right? Oklahoma State needs the handful that we do have to step up and show it this game. Whether it's Terrell Davis, I would love to see if Io Shotomite King is healthy. You mentioned Rodney Fields, and he's had some little things causing hiccups here and there injury-wise. I've heard Io is very comparable. If we have both of those dudes in this game, I have to like that our chances look better than the UTM performance, personally. But the biggest thing to me is just lay the hammer down. This is people's time to shine. The D lineman, tight end. I want to see Josh Ford get the football. Hopefully Oscar Hammond's back in the mix. I want to see, like what you mentioned, give me some ace tight ends. Give me an ace package. Give me some 12 personnel, even 13 personnel with Trent Howland in the back if we need to get the 1 yard on fourth down. Give me all of it. throw caution to the wind, lay the hammer down, have some fun. Add something else, and then we'll get to another ad and hit segment 3 here.
Yeah, and the thing I like about it is, at any level of athletics, when you're going up against a team or a group of people or a squad that's at a high level, I mean, I look forward to that challenge. And I think our guys, we picked up some guys from Akron and some guys from some of these lower levels. I think they're looking forward to the opportunity to go up there and say, hey, I might not have come from an SEC school, or I might not have come from Ohio State or anywhere like that, but I can play some football, and I'm going to show those guys on Saturday that I can play some football at this level. And, one thing that I remember Gundy saying years ago, he says, it's not the guys that we bring in that play at this level that hurt us. It's the guys we bring in that can't play at this level that hurt us. So it's going to be an opportunity for these guys, because everyone's getting paid. Our guys get paid just like they do in Oregon. It's going to be an opportunity for these guys to say, you know what, Oklahoma State might have got a really good deal on me, but I can play some football. And so I want to see that Saturday, and I want to see a lot of those guys step up and play like a team, because this is a team sport. And if those guys can each do their job, I think we have a chance to hang in there. Will we win? I don't know. But I always expect that Oklahoma State can win any game we play in, and we've proven that over the years. I think a lot of people are looking back to what happened last year, and I don't think you can go with that, because Gundy he's not put 2 losing seasons in a row together. He's played really well, and our teams have played really well when no one expected us to do anything. And so I think that's what we'll see Saturday, and I look forward to it.
That is a phenomenal bow to put on it before we go to segment 3, because you are right. We have some dudes from Akron and Brian McCoy, or Saginaw Valley State, obviously, and Brennan Rawls. And they're going to be integral pieces to the success, just like some of the guys that come over from like LSU, J.K. Johnson, Jalen Davies, and Sidney Billy Kafusi from UCLA. We mentioned Janavian Bradley from Tennessee, Mordecai McDaniel from Florida. So we've got an interesting mix of the small-time guys that have something very massive to prove. Some of the returning pieces, like a Jaleel Johnson, mixed in with some of these heavy hitters that are once again out to prove that, hey, I got recruited at this level. I was a consensus 4-star, 5-star level dude at one point in time. I'm here to show people again that I'm still there. All right, so let's hit a couple more things before we get to the meat and taters here towards the latter half of this. There's an upside to everything, especially if the Cowboys get the dub. There can be an upside to everything, even for you, because if you know you're going to have to fill up your tank, you might as well have some of the benefits of getting cash back with it. If you're still paying full price for gas, Locked On Oklahoma State fans, we gotta change this thing up here. Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download with the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use the limited promo code from this show, football, and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 a year just by buying the gas you already need. At first, you're kind of wondering, is this too good to be true? I thought the same thing, but I can tell you it's utilized on a consistent basis in my household because of how legitimate it is. Real people are getting paid every day for their daily commutes. You can do the same thing. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card for Amazon or other brands. Do not let this offer drive right by you. Download the free Upside app now by using the limited promo code FOOTBALL for a limited time, 25 cents off per gallon bonus. That is promo code FOOTBALL. Offers vary by user and location. Make sure that you head on over to upside.com for terms and conditions so you stop throwing your money away when you know you have to fill up your tank. Last but not least, our best friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is right here, and it's time for you to capitalize. With FanDuel, they're going to make sure that you're ready for kickoff, giving you a cannot-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet is a winner, you'll get $300 back in bonus bets to use all across the app. It makes every game even more exciting. You have a higher investment level, whether you're just watching your team, you're keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup, or who's about to have a massive performance that's going to help you cash in. It is quick, easy, and the best way to add a little bit more energy to your Sundays. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app today by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com. Make sure that you go place your first $5 bet for a chance at 300 bones back just by being a winner. All right, buddy, we're going to put a bigger bow on it to wrap this thing up. I think the Big 12 race, not necessarily, will take clarity predicated upon who's going to finish first, second, third, all that. It will to some degree, but I think visually, the aesthetics of how well you play this weekend for a lot of teams in the conference will have a little bit of a determination on what we're going to look at going forward, i.e., K-State might very well struggle against Army because preparing for that kind of attack in a couple days is not easy for anybody, anywhere, anytime, just because you never see it, right? So it's hard to have the scout team and personnel to pull it off. If they win convincingly, that'll be a good statement for them, and it'll show us kind of, well, K-State still is a legitimate contender for the Big 12 title. Likewise, if KU beats Mizzou, who is a darling, dark horse kind of team this season, that accentuates another feather in the cap for the Big 12. Baylor versus SMU, that's an important one. Arizona State cannot lose to a Mississippi State. And then finally, Iowa State has to take care of Iowa. I think that they will. But do you find some validity in me saying that this weekend will add a decent amount of clarity to what the Big 12 could potentially be, at least very early on, to create the Big 12 race, front runners?
TCU might be the real deal.
Yes.
It looks like, Iowa State. How good is Kansas State? I think Kansas State will probably eventually get it going. I heard someone talk about Army. I don't know. They've really struggled with their offensive line this year, so maybe they just don't have the guys there. I don't know how much we'll learn from Kansas State versus Army. I think we'll learn a little bit more about who SMU is and who Baylor is. It looks like Auburn turned out to be a pretty good team. It looks like Utah, Utah's kind of the Oklahoma State of the West. And, Coach Gundy and their coach out there have done a lot of the same things. And I think Utah will be back. It looks like their quarterback is going to be pretty good. And so I think we'll see a lot. I think we'll continue to learn, like, what does Oklahoma State have or what does the Big 12 have? And we're going to learn as time goes on. And I think this will be a good week to kind of find out. We still really don't know what West Virginia is. I think they're better. I think they're going to be all right. I think TCU is probably right up there with Iowa State and Arizona State. We'll see what they are a little bit this weekend. Arizona State as well. So
I'm really glad that you mentioned West Virginia, because my Mountaineer Paul homies probably would be throat punching me through the microphone right now. Otherwise, yeah, they have a big matchup. Ohio's a legitimate team that could easily give them a run, and I'm glad you mentioned it because that's another game that the Big 12 we cannot take that layer of egg on the face if that's a game that we drop. How confident are you in the Big 12 having a big time weekend, i.e., Iowa State beating Iowa, or KU beating Mizzou, or Arizona State beating Mississippi State, Baylor beating SMU, etc.? How do you feel about the Big 12? Do we put ourselves on display this weekend, or is this a step back from a national perception angle?
Well, I think we step forward. I think the Big 12 steps forward this weekend and shows kind of, hey, we can compete with everybody. We're going to be really good from top to bottom, and everyone in the Big 12. And I've heard people say that everyone in the Big 12 they're going to have to bring their lunch pail every week against, no matter who they're playing in the Big 12, because we might not have the stars. And look at Alabama. I mean, I hate to kind of divert, but man, they should be great, and they're not. And so there's something, again, how Oklahoma State's built their program over the years. There's something about coaching. And you might have the dudes, but look at Alabama. Oh, my gosh, they are not good. North Carolina's not good.
Right.
Who's good? We don't know. And, with the NIL and all of this, paying players, you don't know. Anybody who says they know what Oklahoma State is for the entire season, that we might win 5 games, anyone who says they know anything about that, they don't know. I mean, everyone's roster is turning over every year. So I think that the Big 12 is solid as they have been in the past. They go find guys that can play football, and I think that's what we have this year. I don't think the SEC is not looking super stout. What does the ACC have? Who knows? What is who's going to be the top dog in the SEC? No one really knows. So just you get good players, you coach them up, and you try to see, let it play out. So we had a bad year last year. Let's go prove that was a fluke and not do it again.
Bad is an understatement. All right. Well, that is a perfect way to accentuate coming down the home stretch here. Well, since you're not out there, 325 dunking on people in the Colvin and Gallagher Iba as much anymore in your life, let the fine folks out here know what do you got rocking and rolling, and how can they follow you on the socials? Because you are somebody who is tied in with the heartbeat of Oklahoma State. You bleed a ton of orange, and it's all about being reciprocal in today's age, where we're trying to build more donors by marketability, visibility, profitability, the whole 9 yards. Performance here by Oklahoma State would go a long ways, but how can they track you down and see what your reactions are going to be after the game's over?
Well, I'm no Stovall, so I'm just saying I was on Rivals for a long time. I know a lot of guys from there and a lot of people from there. I'm OSU Mark Price 405 on Twitter. I don't post a lot of breaking, riveting information. I watch all of your podcasts, and I watch a lot of Oklahoma State podcasts. I listen. I try to learn. I watch football. I'm not a football genius. One of my friends was at OSU when I was there. I was asking, hey, what are we doing on defense? He goes, Mark, he coaches at a high level. He said, it is so much bigger. There's so many tweaks. There's so many things going on in the back end. We're showing guys something pre-snap, and then we run into a different formation or different alignment after the snap. And so there's just a lot to it. I don't know a lot, but I like to watch and give my opinion every once in a while and see how it goes. So thanks for having me on. It's been fun.
Man.
I've enjoyed it. Yeah.
You know what? That is as smooth as it could physically possibly get, because I'm with you. Thank you very much for being a regular on the show. Obviously, thanks to all the regulars out here and people tuning in. But engulf as much orange Kool-Aid down your gullet as you can physically possibly get. There's so many really good breakdowns. Oklahoma's Own Sports, it's a new podcast. They had Clint Shelf on earlier today. He mentioned a metric ton of extremely vital information. I don't know if you saw the Mike Gundy show earlier today with Hunziker or later yesterday.
Yeah, I did.
Phenomenal. He was breaking down the film aspects of body positioning and how we open up different holes. Mike Gundy going into those different layers, I think, is huge for the Oklahoma State fan base and other fan bases to see, like, what is he looking at? Why does he look at it this way? And how does he feel like the performances went in other areas? Amazing. The reload, man, those guys are killing it. We've got a lot of really phenomenal stuff out there for people to just chug it. Just chug-a-lug the orange Kool-Aid, and maybe we can go make some magic happen in Eugene, Oregon.
Well, I'm a massive Oklahoma State fan. I used to be a psychopath Oklahoma State fan, but I'm not anymore. I've kind of come to my senses, but I love OSU. People ask me every year, like, how many games we're going to win? All of them. Why not, man?
Okay.
We can win them all.
Like
until they show me we can't win, I'm going to say we're going to win them all. But, honestly, we've not won the amount of games we've won since Mike Gundy's been there without having some coaches, and including Mike Gundy. He gets a lot of heat sometimes, but he knows what he's doing. And when his back's against the wall, Mike Gundy was a wrestler. You come out and fight. It's one-on-one. It's me against you. I think we'll do fine. I don't know. We might not get to 9 wins this year. We might not get to 8, but I think we're going to put some things together and show a lot more of what we can do. We had so many players get hurt last year. Our quarterback play wasn't what we wanted. Our offensive line play wasn't what we wanted. And then we just couldn't stop anybody. We had some games that were close, and then we had some games where we just got blown out in the second half and at other times. So I'll always bleed orange. Oddly enough, I grew up an OU fan, but OSU gave me more money to go to school there. So I was like, I remember walking into Eskimo Joe's the first time, and I saw all this orange in there, and I said, man, this orange is just ugly. And this old man, which he was probably my age now, I'm 51, he says, well, son, you came to the wrong school. And I fell in love with it. When Oklahoma City got the Hornets, I was a Hornets fan immediately. Whoever comes, Oklahoma City Thunder, I became a Thunder fan. I went to OSU. That's my school. I became an OSU fan. So that's just how I am. I'm always going to cheer for them and hope we win every game.
Well, being the ride or die of varieties is actually precisely what I think we just need more of, right? We need to spread this thing, get Oklahoma State more stuff, more coverage, more attention, more visibility, because that's the biggest way we can contribute to getting Oklahoma State more competitive in the NIL era. All right, buddy. Well, again, I greatly do appreciate your time. Hopefully
it was awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. Hopefully we find a way to get her did against the Ducks in Eugene, Oregon. But that is all we're going to have for this one out here. As always, everyone, I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here in Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere. So happy you choose to be here. Do me a favor. Hit the like button if you liked it. Dislike if you didn't. That's okay too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast people out there. You're everything that makes this work. You make it tick. You make it go. I appreciate what you do. So go do what you do. Hit the stars. Leave some reviews. Alrighty, y'all. Later, taters.